This is our self-healing class. Sometimes we call it our You Can Heal Your Life class, or the Hay and Holmes class. We call it by many names. It's a class that we present a group discussion afterwards every single Thursday night at 7 Eastern Standard Time. I want to welcome the people on Zoom who are signing in, and the people on Instagram, Facebook Live, and YouTube. And we always ask you, if you're on any of the live broadcasts, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, to send us a message, and we will then be able to invite you in on the Zoom. And if you'd like to become part of our virtual community, send us a message, and we will then send you a weekly reminder and an e-letter that's usually filled with some spiritual gems. And so connect with us, join us on Zoom. This evening, I'm working with a lesson that I developed a long time ago, and I was playing with the title this week, and at one point it was Your Well-Being, and another moment it's You're Gonna Win with this teaching, or you gotta win. It was a Sunday, was an inspirational teacher, Dr. Ike from the old days, who used to say, you can't lose with the stuff we use. In other words, you got to win as you begin to embrace this kind of teaching, a new thought. Florence Scovel Shinn, who one of you mentioned last week, she wrote the book, The Game of Life. Well, if you start to practice these principles that we're teaching, you have to win. You have to ascend, things have to change. So that's really the good news, is first of all that you can change and you will change when you begin to embrace and consider some of these, what I'll call spiritual and or success principles. And we present them here every single Thursday at 7 and every Sunday morning at 10:45. We have a meditation and then a lesson at 11. So to quote Reverend Ike once more, you just can't lose with the stuff we use. We didn't invent this material. This material's been around. There's an old saying, there's nothing new about new thought. It's been around. There's spiritual principles that have been around forever, right? It's just new thought emerged at a certain point in time and started to embrace some of them. And originally there was the textbook by Ernest Holmes, and Louise Hay was a student here at this center. This is the first Church of Religious Science. It's now the first center. And Louise Hay used to take classes here under Raymond Charles Barker. And the principles that she learned here at our center, our former first church, were the principles that were put together in the book, You Can Heal Your Life. So we consider some of these ideas. You can't, again, lose with them. You can only improve yourself, improve your life. So tonight we're working on creating some more bliss and more joy in our experience. So first of all, I'm going to have a little affirmation, and I'm going to connect with self, and I'm going to be thinking of all of you and knowing that there's one life, one spirit. And I accept that I'm whole and complete. And as I think of you all, I know that you are whole and complete, and inlets and outlets of source activity, God activity. There is that which is within that is perfect, longing to express. And we now release anything unlike that, and we embrace the wholeness and the perfection of who we are. We know that there is that which is within us that can heal, that can uplift. We know that we are part of something that's eternal, something that can never die, this source, this energy. Within us is a peace, a happiness, a joy, a power, a wholeness, and happiness. All the power that there is, and all the presence that there is, and all the life that there is within us. We can call it spirit. We can call it many things. It is wholeness. It is the totality of it. If there's any doubts or fears, once again, let us know that they are erased from our minds, eliminated. You might think with me right now and think to yourself, I release the need for any of this, any negative state of mind, and I know all is well in my world and in my affairs. So once again, peace, power, poise, perfection, all that Spirit has is mine, and it's alive in me. I accept the fullness of my own being and my well-being. And so it is once more. I want to think about our textbook. This is the book that Louise would have studied herself some years ago, from page 206, where I got a little bit of my inspiration for this evening. When you get into this teaching in a little bit deeper level, and you attend some of the classes, you learn about the law. And younger people more often hear of the law of attraction. The way it was taught to me is the law of correspondence, the law of cause and effect. You can call it lots of different things, but the law is the law. As within, whatever's living inside of me is playing outside of me. Whatever I'm thinking, the body of my thoughts, if they tend to be positive and uplifting, I will have a tendency to bring into my world more positive experiences. And it's nothing... It's just the law. It's the way it works. So it's nothing I can manipulate, right? My consciousness is announced in the world. It was Ralph Waldo Emerson who said in one of his essays, what you do in your life, what you do speaks so loudly I can't hear a word you say. So what he was trying to get at there is, we can act all holy and sanctimonious and all that, and say a lot of beautiful words, but it's really what you show up, how you show up, and what you believe. That's announced everywhere. I mean, people know you for you eventually, right? We all wear these social masks, and you might be able to fool some of the people some of the time, but eventually, whoever you are and whatever your body of thoughts and thinking, it's reflected in your life and for the world to see. And certainly we all know ourselves what it's like to be us. One of the questions I ask on many of the Thursday nights is, what has it been like being you this week? What's the conversation been like? Has it been upbeat? Has it been fun being you? Because if you have a conversation that's life-giving, you're probably somewhat of a lifter. You've been in this teaching, you're here, you've seen the good in this person and that person, you're seeing the good in situations. You're training yourself, you're loving yourself, and you're training yourself to extend the love that you feel for yourself to others. So you've done some work on yourself, and you're doing some work on yourself. So, and if you're not quite there yet, congratulate yourself for being on the call, because what we do every week is keep reminding you of, how good you are, and that you're an inlet and outlet with this source, and you have everything within you to ascend and to surpass where you've been, and to level up to a whole different kind of existence. So you come here, you learn about the law, you learn about the law of attraction, which is the same thing as the law of cause and effect, or the law of correspondence. We never teach you here that you can just get what you want when you want it. You can quite imagine if everybody in the world could get what they want when they wanted it, the world would be in complete chaos and disorder. There is intelligence operating in life and in the universe itself, thankfully, right? And it's operating in me, and it's operating in you, right? So we don't get things when we want, the way we want, instantly, always. That would probably interfere with the well-being of many other people. But life does respond to us. So Ernest Holmes coined the phrase, "There's power for good in the universe and you can use it." And he actually said more. He said, "There's power for you in the universe greater than you, of which you are a part, and you can use it. You can begin to learn how to use it intelligently." A lot of us use it. We're using it whether we know about it or not. So in other words, if I have a bunch of negative thinking going on, or I'm caught up in resentments and stuff, well, the law is going to act upon my thinking, my negativity, my resentments, and it's going to bear fruit, and I won't like the fruit it's going to bear, right? And so I'm going to then have experiences that will show up as lessons for me. We do not have to keep living in reaction, action and reaction, and creating all these lesser states of being. We can definitely level up and use this power that Holmes spoke of. And Holmes, of course, was Louise Hay's inspiration. Life itself is responding to you all the time. It responds to what we call your subjective tendencies, more than any kind of individual plea you might have. An individual plea would be, "Please, universe, give me this," right? Because I need it now. Life and your manifestations and your demonstrations are going to respond more to what we call your subjective tendencies. So if my subjective tendencies are like, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself, and I've released the need to be critical, and I've really grown into a place of greater self-appreciation. And if my subjective state is I have a sense of value and worth, and I'm growing towards increased self-appreciation, and I've stopped doing many of the things I used to do. In other words, if my subjective sense of self has expanded and grown, we've done some work on ourselves in one way or another. We may meditate, we may be in a 12-step program, we might be showing up in a call like this more often. When my subjective tendency has expanded and my sense of worth is gotten better, right, then what's going to play out, on the screen of my life is going to reflect the greater self-esteem that I have, right? So we come into a class like this, into a teaching like this, and everybody's coming in a different place, and everybody's coming in at the perfect place. Because we have an adage that I'll pass on to you, and I don't always share it in our Thursday class. It's the perfect place, perfect time. So if you understand what that's all about, it's you get the information you get at the time that's right for you. And everyone comes in and they'll hear these life-changing messages. And for some people, they'll take it and they'll run with it. And they'll stay plugged into these classes because they'll let themselves keep on being reminded of how wonderful you are, the power that you possess. There's power that you can use that will, really cause you to level up and experience a much more dynamic life. And there will be other people who will hear these messages and they won't really resonate because there's just too much built up within them that rejects and rejects and rejects. And maybe what with some of these people were merely planting seeds. And my experience is sometimes I see some of these folks a couple of months later, a few years later. But one thing about life is it always goes forward. And when I was lucky enough to find myself in one of these classes, first of all in a 12-step program 41 years ago, and then one of these classes in the 80s, I knew that Louise Hay was speaking something that was very, very important. I knew that I could heal my life. I saw the healing that was taking place with other people all over the place. And I became privileged just to know what I knew. And then I was able to enter into new thought, and I would be able to take a look at a lot of my old beliefs that came out of traditional faiths and ideas that I was less than, not good enough, a sinner, and all that what Alan Cohen calls self-imposed nonsense. It's nobody's fault. I bought into a lot of the things I was programmed with as a child, and through my friends and relatives and the people I grew up and everything else. And I got to a point also where I realized there's no point in being angry at anybody. Everyone, as you hear me say often, was doing the best they could at the time. So here we are, we're adults, and we've got this book and this idea that you can't lose with it, right? And that we can go for a much greater life experience. So we look at our subjective tendencies, and we really look, are we fun to be around? Are we tend to be negative? Are we cheerleaders generally? They told me years ago, Greg, people who are in this teaching are applauders. We're here seeing the good, the God, the good, whatever you want to say, in people and situations. Anybody can do it the other way, right? You can do it the other way and keep on seeing what's wrong with everything, and turn on the news, and all the sensational stories about everything that's wrong. And none of us are ignorant of the facts here, right? So we're not in some Pollyanna type of thing. We understand certain facts in the world. But we do put our focus on the positive side of life, because what we're attempting to do is to develop ourselves, self-development, and do what Ernest Holmes spoke of. He said, first he said, we're teaching people how to live the affirmative life. So if you're loving yourself and your subjective tendencies lean towards the positive side of life, you're going to be opening up avenues within your consciousness to see good that you never saw before, and opportunities that heretofore had been denied you. Because if I'm keeping on thinking that everything's a problem, and that's my consciousness and that's my mindset, then quite honestly, it will become a self-fulfilling prophecy. So we teach people here about positive expectancy and wholeness, and that there is that which is within you that's wonderful, and there is that which is within you that will respond to you and will bring you forward to a higher place. Okay, so just remember that phrase, subjectivity. Life responds to your subjective tendencies. That's like the body of thoughts, more than an individual plea in any given moment. I think that's a mature metaphysical approach that I certainly did not have when I was, coming around in the beginning, because there was time in my life where I would really want things desperately to work out a certain way. And if you embrace the teaching more that we teach here, or Louise Hay advocated, she would say simply trust life. Or she would also say trust the process of life. She never said you get what you want in this moment necessarily. So let's look at the idea of well-being as an idea, and let's consider how to have the experience of well-being in our life, right? And how to get there. And first of all, well-being is an internal state, a state of being content across the board with my health, my wealth, my creative expression, my relationships. If you've got that, you've done a little bit of work on yourself, I would say, right? You're happy with your body, your health, your emotional self. You're content with your faith. You have good relationships with people that support you. So let's look at that and know that all of that is possible to have. And if you're not there, then we're going to claim that it exists for you. With self-healing, many of us, to have self-healing, all it really requires is turning that internal dialogue around, that subjective state that I was just talking about. Most of us come here week by week, want to have more of every good thing, right? We want healthier everything and better, and and certainly as you keep on reminding yourself of the truth of your being, and you keep on realizing more and more that life responds to us, then you're going to start to change your thinking, and you're going to have the willingness to let go of things that maybe aren't so great for you. So we do the spiritual work. We come here week by week for reminders. We come here in a community, and people share usually after every gathering in our Zoom call, and I find that time very interesting and inspiring. Other things that we learn to do in our classes is we learn to take a little quiet time where we can practice the presence or meditate. Start using some journaling rather, some contemplative reading. Whatever time you can take out for yourself to center yourself and to know that you are one with this one power, and know that there's something within you that really is attempting to come forward and express itself. Wherever you can take some time for that, it will pay huge dividends. If it's nothing more than plugging into our class once or twice a week, that's a huge step forward, because we're always going to be doing those two reminders of how great you are and what's possible. I said last week from a songbook from Louise Hay's CDs, remembering and forgetting. That's the game. When you're in a place of remembrance of who you are, that I'm connected with Source, if I keep remembering that, I know that I'm one with the one, then things will start to shape up in one kind of way. If I feel like I'm the prodigal child, that I'm cut off from the kingdom and I'm alone in the world, and then I will create a different kind of reality. Your mind responds, now I'll say it this way, your consciousness plays out. So if my thoughts, the subjective tendency tends to be about what's missing and what's lacking, that's going to be what's going to be playing out. So we're here to build you up each and every week in any way we can, and to remind you, right? So as we practice knowing that we're supplied and seeing the good, and this practice of knowing you're supplied and seeing the good sets the very law that we talk about, the law of attraction, into motion. And it teaches you how then to deal with the negatives. We have a powerful process that I do a class on. It's called Affirmative Prayer. In the old days, they called it spiritual mind treatment. And that prayer is a prayer where you start centering yourself in the realization that you are one with Source. And you let that idea really build up within you. And you contemplate the idea that there is this omnipotent power and that exists everywhere, and you're part of it. And you can use it. And you're going to make declarations. They're affirmative statements, affirmations, and you're going to connect with that feeling within you. And when you connect with it in such a way, you can feel it, feel the truth of it. And you'll know that you'll have a sense of it, and you then will release, here's a suggestion, you release anything unlike it, and you affirm again the truth of what you've just said in your affirmative prayer. And then you release this perfect idea. And see, what you're doing is you're elevating your consciousness to a point where you're uniting with these higher ideas, and you're creating an avenue in your own mind so you're opening up yourself to greater good, health, creativity, freedom, expression. You have the willingness to then also release people, places, and things that seem to be holding you back, that you in fact have been holding on to. So if you want to participate in this game of life and level up in all kinds of ways, it's simply a matter of staying in the conversation, noticing what comes up for you in these conversations, having the willingness to let go. I say often we're standing at a turning point, and a lot of people keep creating what they've been creating all through their lives. They have, from the book, The Four Agreements, we have all these agreements and these things that keep on coming in, and we hang on to grudges and resentments and doing the same thing over and over again, even when it doesn't work. So if you want to win, in that sense, right, in that game of life, And I'll say everybody's winning in a way because we're all learning and we're all moving forward even when we don't think we are. But if you really want to accelerate the process and have there be a quickening, you can have there be a quickening. Things can get a lot better, faster, simply by staying in a place of connection with yourself, first and foremost, and connection with these life-changing ideas. There's endless possibilities available for all of us. So never, ever, ever, put yourself down or criticize yourself or tell yourself it's too late or you're stuck. If you're feeling stuck in any area of your life, it isn't the truth. It isn't the objective truth. There's nothing in life that's really ever holding us back, right? It's only a thought that's going on. Louise said in one of her writings, whatever you think is holding you back, it's only a thought you're having, and any thought can be changed. So we want to approach life with a bigger concept, bigger container. Louise Hay would suggest, envision yourself walking up to the ocean of life with some enormous container where you can receive great good. Many of our people who just come into the teaching were raised in families where they were taught scarcity and they were taught to keep their mouths closed and not express themselves, and they're taught a lot of things. And what we're teaching you here is, or we're reminding you of a fact that you are one with the one. You're an inlet and outlet of it, and you're here to thrive and to express and to have joy and have fun, and abundance is really your birthright too. So why deny yourself any and all these good things? So we affirm that we're approaching life open and receptive to all the good that's available. We want to utilize our amazing minds and be open to new ideas, and realize that each of us are powerful beings, and we're creative, and we're here to learn and grow and to express life. Life is always about, I've learned in this teaching, about learning lessons of every kind. Sometimes we learn the lessons over and over again, but when we get them, we get them. I'm reminded today in the new year of a friend of mine who passed away a long time ago, and his message was, this is not a dress rehearsal. This is the real thing, right? This is your life, your precious life. So he was encouraging me, as I recall, to get out there and start living it. And I'm encouraging everybody here to know that you are supplied and supported, and be resolved not to let anything hold you back. Be resolved not to let yourself hold yourself back. You might say to yourself, I release the need to stay still. I release the need to be stifled. I intend to move forward. I'm open and receptive to my good. These are all really good things to say to yourself as you're approaching a new year. I'm willing to step out of tough situations, and I'm willing to step into better situations where I'm loved and appreciated. The encouragement in this lesson also is to find things of interest to you, not necessarily the things that other people told you ought to do. Try to cultivate, and usually sometimes we remember when we're kids, we like doing various things. Consider doing something of interest and of value to yourself. Start following some of your own inner longings and watch things start to open up a little bit for you. We're going to change our own world by the way we see the world. So it's important that we start to see the good. There was a great teacher, I got a lot from her from just a couple of phrases she used to teach, Edwina Gaines. She kept on saying, we train ourselves to see the God or the good or the God. And I like that because the word God and the good to her were synonyms. People who are in this teaching are here. We turn away from the negativity because we can keep doing what's wrong, and what's wrong with us, and what's wrong with everybody, right? But we want to change the world and we'll do that. We change the world by the way we see the world. If we keep seeing, whatever good there is, We live, we move, we have our being in this divine substance. So everything we're looking at is a part of this divine substance. So let us lift our eyes a little bit higher than the problem and start to see even the people who show up less than wonderful. They're part of this divinity too. We live and we move and we have our being in this substance. And as we're able to see things differently and realize that everyone's doing the best they can, even the people who you think are screwing up, they're doing the best they can with the information, the understanding, and the awareness that they have. If you're able to do that, what you're doing is you're healing your own consciousness. And this is really what you're wanting to do, is you level up. So you're taking yourself out of the action and reaction, and you're coming to a different place where you're seeing the world and you're seeing the people in the world as what they are. They're all spiritual beings evolving, evoluting along just like we are. I don't know who can take all that in when they're first coming to this class, but that's essentially what we are always going for, is to realize our connection with life and begin to see the beauty in all things. You could always find some people that will agree to you on what's wrong. You can find a whole bunch of people that will agree with you on what's wrong, and you could do that, right? But that's not the stuff that's going to bring the changes that you want to see. When you come to a metaphysical group or discussion group that's talking about transformation, they're always going to be talking about ideas, metaphysical truths, eternal truths, ideas that will lift you up and bring you to a higher place. Where we come to a place of love and we appreciate the fact that we have the power at our disposal to change our lives and to heal our lives. We can forgive ourselves, and in forgiving ourselves, we can forgive others so we can be free. Many don't believe it. They say, they're always talking about other people, and they make their whole life about what other people are doing. And there's a lot of people living that way. They're talking about people, places, and things, and world events. And that same group of people are parroting everything they've been hearing all their lives. I'm asking all of you to consider doing it a different way, to realize that deep in the center of your being, there's an infinite well of love and intelligence and light, and you can access it at any time. And that this spirit that lives in you is longing to express through you in a greater way. From another book I'm fond of, it was A Course in Miracles. There's a quote saying, "The peace of God is my one goal, my purpose, my function in my life." So how do we get to a place where we can rest in this peace and wholeness, and we can know, as Louise says so beautifully, all is well? Ernest Holmes would have said that we're in the perfect place, perfect time, if you think about it logically. If you think about it, you're centered in God activity and you've come this far. Each of us are unique expressions in it, and we're in the perfect place, perfect time. And knowing that, we can rest, knowing that all is well. And with this consciousness, you can't lose. You will continue to win if you keep on remembering all is well and perfectly unfolding in you and for you and through you. So that'll be it for the lesson. On the other side of the break, I'd just like you all to say hello and whatever you'd like to share, and about the idea of all is well or all is improving, and how you're staying plugged in to those thoughts and with those thoughts. With the understanding that your life, my life, is a reflection of my consciousness and nothing more. So if there's any work that needs to be done, it's always done on self. So we come to this class to learn how to love ourselves more. And so it is. So thank you.